as of right now, at this moment, these are charges. 74 charges for breaching, as stated via the FA. Player, I'm going to make sure I read these correctly because I don't want to misrepresent this on my screen. Charges relating to regulations under football agents, working with intermediaries, third-party investments in players. These essentially go back to the allegations that Chelsea self-reported a number of years ago now that there were off-the-book, offshore payments made via the likes of Roman Abramovich to the agents and coaches and intermediaries for players such as Samuel Eto'o, such as Eden Hazard. It does now appear there might be even more, as we're seeing 74 breaches for these rules and regulations. It's important they're investigated thoroughly. It's important that they're assessed because major success happened for Chelsea in that period. Success that I can only speak for myself here. I never bemoaned Chelsea having money to spend. I never bemoaned Roman and the way he operated. I never bemoaned the transfer records that they broke. I never bemoaned the way they changed the transfer landscape. I looked at it as a challenge. I looked at it as something for Man United, as a United fan, to go after. And we did, and we beat Chelsea. We did a 3-peat. We beat them in a Champions League final. Fergie stopped them from becoming the dominant force they wanted to be. On a competitive football level, I sort of loved it. However, if they have then agreed to PSR rules, FFP rules, if they have then broken those regulations by paying people off the books, if they have broken rules and regulations if it comes to tapping players, and I'm speculating here, but I'm giving you examples, I'm giving you a hypothesis. If they've been tapping up players, misusing intermediaries, if there's third-party owners, investments in players where they're breaching those rules, if they're paying off, bribing, or making offshore payments, off-the-book payments to agents to convince players to come, they're circumventing those rules. Every single bit of success that has happened during that period and since, because you build that foundation. You build that foundation. You have those assets. Where would Chelsea have been without Eden Hazard? And who else knows what other players are going to come into this? It must be taken seriously. Now, some people will say this is old news. This is not old news. Do not believe that flannel. Do not believe that nonsense. Do not believe that bullshit. This is not new news. Yes, we know Chelsea self-reported. But if you go back and find those articles, and I'll go and find them now, Chelsea reports themselves. I don't know how to Google search this. I'm going to put in Eto'o and I'm going to put in Hazard. We'll probably find these articles from a year or so ago. Let's have a little look here. Yeah, Chelsea hope for financial deal with the Premier League is what they were looking for over secret payments. So we go back, and this article came out in January 2025. During the takeover process in 2022, Todd Bowley and Clear Lake discovered irregularities in the takeover process in May 22 and reported them to the Premier League. So it's very unlikely that any of the transactions in the last 3 or 4 years fall under this since Clear Lake took over. But of course, there is a foundation that has been built within this. The players mentioned in this original report were Eden Hazard, Samuel Eto'o, and Willian. Okay, 3 exceedingly influential, especially Willian and Hazard, in the successes of Chelsea Football Club. But it's what that foundation built them: maintaining Champions League positions, winning trophies, prize money, sponsorships, the additional funds that bring in. Now, what are the 74 charges and breaches in relation to? Is this a case of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 per player, 20 per player, 30 per player? Or is this 3 or 4 charges per player and we're looking at 10, 12, 15, 30 different players? How often did this happen? How many more irregularities have been found? This is a conversation that, again, has to be had. Football fans have to look at this. Football fans have to push back at this. Have to. Because at the end of the day, whether people like this or not, this is serious. This is massive. This is groundbreaking. And just as we've discussed if these allegations are proven, if these charges for breaches are convictable, if they, and listen, there's a chance here they're more convictable than City's, because Chelsea Football Club have reported themselves. Okay? Now look, what Chelsea have done though is a little different. They have essentially grasped themselves up. What Chelsea Football Club have done have handed themselves in. What Chelsea Football Club have done to a large degree is pleaded guilty and said, look, we're the new owners. Clearlake and Todd Bowley, we're the new owners. We've found these irregularities. We know regulations coming in soon. We know that a governing body is going to start to regulate football clubs. We found these irregularities. What we didn't want to do is what other clubs have done. And there probably are others out there that have done this, haven't been found. We're going to brush it under the carpet. We're going to hide it. Just for one day, the regulators to come in, to find this out, and for you to punish us. What we're looking for is to communicate. And I'm sure you're going to see a statement from Chelsea very soon. By the time you're watching this video, it might have already happened. Chelsea are going to end up issuing some kind of statement where they're going to say, you know, we're pleased to have had professional and courteous and engaging conversations with the FA. We are working with them fully. We self-reported. We're looking forward to reaching a conclusion. Chelsea will push that narrative, and they will be hoping that the outcome is favourable because they have handed themselves in. But what cannot be ignored, and I don't think this even matters from a what's the punishment front, it's the court of public opinion. And for me, this is huge. This is significant. In fact, this is absolutely massive, because from my point of view and from my perspective, I look at this as, what did this help you win? We need the facts. The same as when Man City's results come out. When City's results come out, if they are innocent and this was a witch hunt, I'll condemn the Premier League and any club that was pushing for this, including my own. I'll say that was wrong and that is disgusting, because fans are connected to that club. If it turns out they cheated, we need to know the severity. We need to know by how much. What did that enable them to buy? What potentially would their squads have looked like if they weren't able to pump in this money that's being alleged? Because if they've cheated, but they pumped in an additional 30 million over 10 years, I don't think it's made a great deal of difference. If they've pumped in over £1 billion of revenue in 10 years, and that lack of £1 billion would have led to the squad being half as good, it's a different conversation. The same conversation has to now be pushed by football fans regarding Chelsea. And this isn't a witch hunt. This is seeking the truth. If Chelsea had done it with 2 or 3 players, and that's all this relates to, and they've cooperated, and the majority of their squad would have still been there, then maybe they could have afforded the players anyway, but they might have had a little fine on FFP or PSR. I'm not saying it's no big deal, but that is a far cry from they broke these rules to sign half a squad. In fact, half a squad, it was the core group that led to Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup wins that led to them generating hundreds of millions in revenue, that gave them the foundation to have what they're doing now. I look at it as something's got to be done, even with cooperation. Now, maybe the fines and the punishments are less because they've cooperated, and that makes sense. I expect if Chelsea and City are both found guilty, I expect Chelsea to get a lesser punishment because they've cooperated. That works in criminal law, civil law, right across the board. The more cooperative you are, the more you speak, the more information you give, especially if you help build a RICO, you often get away with a lot more. But it's the historical factors. Will we still recognise Chelsea as having those Premier Leagues, those FA Cups, those Champions Leagues? Chelsea fans might say they do, and that's fair. That's on you. If it's proven you've cheated to this degree, and it's an allegation, so I'm not saying it's real, you might not care and go, don't care, we were still champions. But if football doesn't recognise you anymore, what does it matter in reality? Because isn't that not what we're all fighting for? It's like footballing supremacy. We want to be seen as the biggest, the most successful club. And if football fans go, but it was nonsense, you cheated, it doesn't really matter how much you won in that period. So for me, that is the conversation piece as a football fan that I am looking at here. How bad are these breaches? How many players did it cover? What did it help them achieve? How long has this been going on? We kind of have a time frame on that already. What was the impact upon rivals? What was the impact upon other teams competing against Chelsea? This matters because the point of sport is to compete against each other. A lot of people say win at all costs. I read something recently that changed my mind slightly on that. The beauty of sport is that you win something within the set rules. Bend the rules maybe, break them no. In boxing, a boxer might be able to win every fight if he starts elbowing and headbutting, but he has to stick within the rules of boxing. In boxing, there's a weight limit. If you start breaking if you go into a fight 20 kilos too heavy and knock a man out, nobody goes, well done you. They go, well, you're far too big. Because you're not winning within the set rules. And in football, there's rules on the pitch. But then there are financial rules. There are regulatory rules that also must be followed. And if cheating those regulatory rules enables you to have a better team on the pitch, it's still sporting related. And I'm not convicting Chelsea here. All I am saying is that Chelsea Football Club, and a statement, by the way, I think has just been released by Chelsea Football Club, as I live and breathe, Chelsea have said Chelsea's FC are pleased to confirm that its engagement with the FA concerning matters that were self-reported by the club is now reaching a conclusion. Well, look, I told you they would say something like that, didn't I? I knew that would come out 100%. Chelsea, they are guilty then, because that for me is an admission of guilt. We self-reported. We grassed ourselves up. So Chelsea have made these breaches, but what we, the fans, need to know is what were they and how much did it impact things? Because if it's barely had an impact, if it's a drop in the ocean, we move on. If it's been sizable, this must be discussed. This must be called out. We must look at this. And what is the punishment? Maybe it's not a big point deduction. Maybe it's not a big fine because they have self-reported. But do they keep their trophies? Do they keep their success? Do they keep that status? Because if you can cheat to be a better football team and you win the trophies off doing it, and then you're caught or self-reported and you maintain the medals, we might as well all cheat. There's no point for rules. Because if you just get to keep the medals anyway, we'll see. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you disagree with me. I'd love to get your views on that, please, people, in the comment section below. Get yourselves liking. Get yourselves sharing. Big breaking news, though. Chelsea charged by the FA for 74 breaches. Give me your thoughts and your feelings in the comment section below.